Hi, I'm Amy Hannon, and nothing thrills me more than people and food. I'm a preacher's wife, a mom of 3, and I own my own specialty kitchen store. I've kept an open door and a well-stocked fridge, which means I have fed a lot of mouths over the years. So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen today. Look at all this. We're like smothered in really good baking goods today. I love to bake so much. I get that itch so bad, don't you? And I'm telling you, Easter, when Easter rolls around, spring rolls around, I automatically start getting the itch, like a big hankering for coconut cake or coconut cupcakes or coconut cream pie. My sister-in-law Allison and I both share the same love for coconut. And I know that there are people right this minute that do not love coconut, but if you're a coconut lover, we need to like unite, form a union, because it's good stuff. And I don't know that everybody loves it, but listen, if you're not sure, this is the one to try. It is not overtly crazy coconut. It's actually very subtle. And the coconut that we're going to put on at the very end, you could just put a little bit on or none, really, if you didn't want to. It is really just a very, very sweet cake. We're making a coconut tres leche cake today. Kind of like an old-fashioned refrigerator poke cake. Do you remember those? The ones that our moms would make or our grandmothers would make. And you poke all the holes down around in the top and then you soak it in like a frosting or a liquid of some kind. So it's kind of like an old-fashioned, like a Southern living cake. My mother made one, my grannies made one. So it's kind of like that. Kind of like if a poke cake and a tres leche cake married, this is what we would get. Then it's kind of going to have like a refrigerated topping on it. So this is just kind of the best of both worlds of like all of the good classic cakes that we have come to know and love over the years. And it's not going to bake in a bundt. It's not going to be layered or anything. It's just going to bake in a good old-fashioned 9x13 cake pan, just like you would take to your church potluck. Okay, so let me tell you what we've got going here. This is the easy part. You're going to love this. I am a fan, you know, I'm a big believer in starting with a white cake mix or boxed cake mix. It is already pre-measured. It has all of the leavener and all the good stuff in it that you need. So I'm already starting with that. It takes a lot of work out of all the measuring. Since we're going to do a bunch of other steps, this is an easy one to take. Kind of makes it easy for us. So this is just a white cake mix, okay? And one small box of white chocolate pudding. And that white chocolate just kind of adds to the vanilla flavor, just kind of increases the vanilla flavor of a cake mix. It doesn't, there actually is a coconut pudding mix. If you decided that you really loved coconut and you really wanted to like amp up the flavor of it, you could use a coconut. But I just use the white chocolate just because it's kind of a good general vanilla flavor. And the texture that pudding adds to just that classic white cake mix is really good. It makes it kind of spongy and cakey. So what I'm doing here is I'm not mixing anything in yet. This is just kind of getting the clumps out, kind of getting a little air in the cake mix and in the pudding. And to this, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. Okay? And then we're going to add our liquid. And all this is 1 cup of water. And I'm going to put all my liquid in 1 2-cup measure. Just put it all in one instead of messing up several things. So we have our 1 cup of water. I'm adding a 1/2 cup of oil, and I just use canola, and a 1/2 cup of milk. And I'm using 2%. There are certain rules of thumb. People would think in certain camps that you can use buttermilk always in cakes. Makes them tender. Oh my goodness, so good. But I just had 2%, so that's what I'm using. And I'm going to pour this right into our mixer on low. Okay. And a splash of vanilla, always. I may have done 2 teaspoons instead of 1. It's good. I don't think you can go wrong with vanilla. Good stuff. Okay, so then while that's beating on low, what I'm going to do is separate 4 large eggs. And we want to keep the whites. And you can store the yolks for later if you would like. But I'm actually just going to dump them today. I don't need them for any new cooking. So I am going to separate these in the shells. Do y'all remember that one time that we had Holly Thomas come on, the domestic housewife, and she could crack those in her hand? I mean, is that a skill or is that a skill? I can't even begin to fathom how many eggs that girl has cracked in her life. I just use the shells, good old-fashioned way. Okay, and you want to use room temperature eggs and make sure your whites are room temperature. They just incorporate a little bit better. And then you get a really good texture, which is what we really want in this cake when all of your ingredients are room temperature. So our milk was room temperature, our water was room temperature, oil is always room temperature. Okay, so here we go. We have our egg whites, and I'm gonna dump them in there. And on low, I'm gonna give that a little bit of time. And then I'm gonna turn this on up. Can you hear me? I'm gonna turn this up to about medium high and let it roll for about 2 minutes or so. We're just gonna get some good air in there. It's fantastic for the texture. Smells so good wafting over here. When we come back, we're gonna put this in our cake pan and stick it in the oven. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. I'm making the most delicious, rich, creamy, oh my goodness, the sweetest cake for this time of year that I just get the itch for. I'm making this coconut tres leche cake. It's kind of like an old-fashioned refrigerator cake where you poke holes in it and soak it in all kinds of good cream, and oh, it is so good. Serve it cold. You just can't beat it. So what I've done is we mixed our batter and baked it in a classic 9x13 at 350 for about 28 to 30 minutes. Start checking it at 28. And you want to be able to stick a toothpick down in there. You know the toothpick test, where when you stick a toothpick down in the middle, it comes out clean. So I actually have our cake ready to come out. And this is just that easy recipe for a cake that we kind of fancied up a little bit, that we started with a cake mix. Remember that? It is just the best kitchen hack. Such a great shortcut. So what we want to do is we want to let this cake stand for about 10 minutes or so. There's no big hard rule on that, but we just want to give it a few minutes because right now it just kind of needs to set. So what we're going to do while this cake cools is toast this coconut. And I have about a cup to a cup and a half of just fresh coconut. It is good for you. I eat it by the handful. This really satisfies a sweet tooth for me. I have some really funny friends. I told y'all about my camps of coconut and not coconut. My friend Lizette, I've already sent her a picture to Nashville of this bowl right here. There it is, Lizette. She doesn't like coconut, but man, it is good. She is missing out. You're missing out. Good stuff right here. We're eating little pinches of it. Okay, so what I've got is just a non-stick skillet over about medium-low heat. You do not want this to be high. It should not sizzle when it pops down into the skillet. We just want to get a little toast on this. So I've got a good little spoon. It's going to sizzle just a tiny because there's moisture, but you don't want it to start sounding like it is. We're not treating this like onions, you know, when you really get that going. So it's going to just sizzle the tiniest bit, but not a lot. And we're going to stir this just for a little bit to get some of the moisture out and get the smallest amount of just toasted color on them. You don't want it to be tons. Like I said, we're not caramelizing onions. We just want to get a little bit of that moisture out so that we can spread it all across the top of this beautiful cake that we're about to, you know, juice up. I cannot wait to show you what goes in this cake. It's good. Good, good, good. So already I see color, like it's just that quick. And if you can kind of get your spoon kind of up under and kind of flip it so that the bottom pieces that are touching the skillet kind of go to the top and vice versa, then that's what you want to do. I'm just seeing the tiniest bit of color. And it smells good. You know, when we have toasted nuts on this show, or when you toast nuts at home, it's that smell that you're kind of going for. You know, it just gets so fragrant when you just toast things just a little bit. Okay, that's really all I want. I don't love when the coconut gets super, super browned. And you've seen that a lot of times, like on a coconut cream pie. The coconut will actually be really browned. I don't just love that color. I like to kind of keep it still pretty white, but it's so fragrant. Oh my word. And there are a few pieces, just enough where there's a little bit of color. And I'm just going to scoop this out on this plate and let it cool because we don't want it to be hot when we put it on top of our frosting. See, there's just a little color. Oh, the smell, so good. Okay, we're going to let that cool. Make sure that that is turned off. And now we've let our cake stand. You can let it stand about 10 minutes or so. But what we're going to go ahead and do is scoot this cake right over here. And this is where I said this is kind of like an old-fashioned poke, like a poke refrigerator cake. And what I mean by that, it's real technical. We're just going to poke it with holes. That's it. So when I say poke cake, that's what we're talking about. I have these long, like 3-inch toothpicks that I use for cake testers. You could also use a fork. I kind of feel like a fork sometimes tears it up. But I'm just going to poke like crazy. Holes, holes, holes. And they don't have to be in a straight line, and there doesn't have to be a pattern. We're just going to poke a bunch of holes. And what we're doing is creating these long, neat places for us to pour this cream on this cake. And it's going to go all the way down in and saturate into this cake. Holy smokes. Then this entire cake is going to absorb all this cream we're going to pour on when we get back. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to keep poking this cake. And when we come back, we're going to keep on rolling. Good, sugary, sweet. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Hi, we're back. We're finishing up the most beautiful cake. It smells so good. We have taken this out of the oven. We poked all over this thing with that little toothpick, made plenty of little yummy little chasms for it to catch and absorb this cream we're about to put in. And a tres leche cake is 3 milks. So what I have here, I've already measured it, and I'm giving it just a little shake in my mason jar. What I have is a half of a can of coconut milk, a half of a can of sweetened condensed milk, and a half of a can of evaporated milk. Not a half a cup, half of a can. So I really just eyeballed that. That doesn't have to be super specific, but that'll let you know that that's what is in here. And I've just put it in a mason jar and given it a good shake. You ready for this? If you've never made a tres leche cake, this is what it means. We have this amazing spongy white cake. I mean, don't you just worry sick that you're doing it wrong when you do this? The first time I made this, I thought, oh my word, I've messed this whole thing up because this couldn't possibly be right. But it is so good. This cake absorbs every bit of this cream. Now, what you need to know about this cake, this is not something that you're gonna make the morning of or even the afternoon of for your party or for your get-together. This is a cake you need to make in advance. So there's all this cream, these milks, poured onto this cake. This needs to sit at room temperature for about 45 minutes until it's really like room temperature, not warm at all, because then you just need to cover it really, really tight with some kind of a cling wrap and put it in the refrigerator overnight, at least about 8 hours. That cake is going to absorb all of those creams and those milks for the most unbelievable bite ever. Now I'm going to show you, because I don't think y'all want to hang out here overnight, wait for this cake. I made one yesterday, and this one's cold. And look right here. That cake absorbed every single bit of that cream that went on top of it, and this is nice and cold. This one we're going to set aside, and then I'm going to cover this and put it in the fridge, and it'll actually be ready tomorrow. So I'm going to set this over here. So now that we have our cake that has soaked in the 3 milks, and I actually put a little coconut flavoring in the milk. If you are a little bit leery of the coconut flavoring, you do not have to, because the coconut milk has some coconut flavor in it. But I just wanted a little tiny bit more because, you know, I'm in the coconut fan club. And so I just did about a half a teaspoon or so. So what we want to do now on top of this beautiful cake is make just a sweet whipped cream. We have done this here before, but I'm going to add a little bit of coconut flavoring to it. So all I have here is cold, heavy cream. Cold, cold, cold. Cold bowl, cold cream, about 1.5 cups. And I'm going to get that going on high. And I want to just start mixing this a little bit before I start adding in my sugar. I'm going to add a splash of vanilla, a little bit of coconut cream, kind of an extract, coconut extract is going to make this cream so good. Oh, smells like the beach, that coconut does. And then I'm going to let that get going. So it's nice and mixed. And I'm going to turn this down low, because if it's going high, it's going to spray on you. And I'm just going to do about 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. And powdered sugar will just sweeten that a little bit. Now that it's kind of on low, it's kind of incorporated in. I'm going to turn it on up. And we're going to beat this until there are some nice, thick, stiff peaks. We don't want it to be like a dollop that you would maybe put on top of like strawberry shortcake that still might be a little bit like thin and runny. We really want this to be a little bit thicker so that we can actually spread it on our cooled cake. So we're going to let that go a little bit. Pick up our area. And then here we have our toasted coconut. Yep, and it feels good. It's cooled off now. And you can tell, you know, when coconut comes out of the bag, it's like gloppy and sticky a little bit. This is actually dried out a little bit, so it's flakier, not in those clumps that we kind of started with. So that's nice and cool. Our cake is ready. Our cream, it's starting to get thicker. Oh my goodness, coconut lovers, you gotta make it. Coconut non-lovers, you gotta try it anyway, because I may just change your mind. I think I'll change your mind. Okay, we're gonna give this a few more minutes. And while that runs, I'm going to get my spreader. And I just use a good old rubber spatula to put it on. And when you put this on the cake, you want to kind of plop it on there and be very gentle about spreading it. You don't want to give it like when you're doing, I don't know, cream cheese or buttercream. You really kind of have to give it some elbow grease to get it on top of your cake to spread it. But we don't want to mash the air out because we've got a good thing going. So we want to very carefully kind of like roll it all over this cake. It's beautiful. We're going to let this finish up. When we come back, we're going to ice this cake. This is cooking today. Hi, we're back. We're finishing it up. We have the most unbelievable smells in this kitchen right now. The sweet and the vanilla and this coconut that's just barely there. Reminds me of Easter. Smells like the ocean. You know how that smells. Good drinks and yummy suntan lotion. Oh, so many good things make me think of coconut. So we have whipped this cream. Gotten a really good, thick cream. Remember I said we needed to make sure that it was spreadable. And then I am going to get every last bit of this homemade whipped cream out of here. And we do not want to push it down. Remember how I said that? You want to be really careful, almost like if you've ever made meringue, how you have to be really gentle with it. If you want more whipped cream on top of this cake, you just go right ahead and do 2 cups or whatever you like. I know I have seen this cake in the olden days with probably 1.5 inches thick frosting on the top. There's nothing wrong with that, let me tell you, especially when it tastes this good. Okay, so look at that. See how I'm just barely pressing it over and moving it around. Cover all the sides. Careful, careful. Don't mush it. And I'll tell you, let me tell you this. If you're going to serve this cake right away, you could go ahead and frost the whole thing. If you are going to serve this cake over the period of a day or something like that, maybe you're going to set it out, and just have people kind of go through a buffet line and get it as they please, then you could not frost the cake and just put this good cream beside the cake, and people could cut them a piece, put a little cream on top and their own little shred, if you would like to do it that way. Or if you have people that don't want this frosting on there and they only want the cake, you can do it that way. Okay, we frosted this cake. It smells so good. And now we just take our little bits of toasted coconut. Isn't that pretty? Doesn't that just make you think of church potluck? Oh, and spring. Coconut people, we're in the know, aren't we? This is good stuff. Hope you'll try this at home. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Groceries provided by Harps, Hometown Fresh.